unbeaten British light heavyweight prospect Anthony Yarde captures the Southern Area light heavyweight title and improves his record to 11-0 with a 4th round stoppage over Chris Hobbs. Now, people are a bit divided on Anthony Yarde. There are some people who think that this guy is the future of the light heavyweight division in Britain, and other people think he's just a pretender. I think he has a lot of talent there, a lot of natural ability, but because of the fact that he had very few amateur fights, I think he only had 11 or 12 amateur fights, and he's only had 11 fights so far as a pro, there's bound to be things that he can't do. There are bound to be areas in which he's lacking. There has to be. Even though he looks polished and all that kind of stuff, the lack of experience has to show at some stage against some opponent. And I don't know if it showed here against Chris Hobbs, because he obviously dropped Hobbs numerous times. He wasn't able to really hurt Chris Hobbs with any head punches though, not noticeably. He was dropping him with body shots, but his head shots, I don't know. In the post-fight interview, Anthony Yarde said that it's because he was concentrating on body shots. He was working on body shots. It was really like a sparring session. That's the impression that he wanted to give, at least in the post-fight interview, that he could have gone up to the head and knocked him out that way, but he wanted to work on certain things. That might be true. Now, one thing I have to address as well is there's a dispute about Anthony Yarde's height. Some people are saying that he's a really short guy. He's not. Anthony Yarde is actually listed as 6 feet tall, and I definitely now believe that height because Chris Hobbs is listed as 5'11". And I know boxers often do lie and exaggerate their heights and whatnot, but given the opponents that Yarde has faced so far, I've been checking their heights and what have you. I do believe Yarde is legitimately 6 feet tall. How in the world a guy with that type of physique, who's 6 feet tall, manages to make 175 pounds, I've got no idea. At the weigh-in for this fight, he apparently had to strip naked to make 175. So going forward, man, it's going to be extremely difficult for this guy to make that weight. I don't know how long he can stay at light heavyweight for. He really does look like a cruiserweight, his body size and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But as I say, him as a fighter, I think he is a precocious talent. Tremendously physically gifted, athleticism, punching power. He obviously tries to emulate a lot of Floyd Mayweather's technique. It remains to be seen how well that's going to work for him in the long run. But for now, it looks cool, you know. But the Chris Hobbs fight was the first fight where an opponent actually tried to offer some resistance. Chris Hobbs extremely limited, particularly offensively, extremely limited. So he wasn't really able to add to the awkwardness, which was, I think, giving Anthony Yarde more problems than he's used to having. Which, you know, don't really say much because he ain't been having no problems with his opponents up until this point. But from an offensive point of view, Anthony Yarde had to work harder in this fight than he normally does. So, you know, maybe there are other light heavyweights out there who'll be able to mess Yarde around using their defense, but then add offense to it and give Yarde something to think about on that end as well. We'll see. I want to see Yarde in a serious test. Well, let me not say a serious test. I want to see him step up his level of opposition fairly significantly following the Chris Hobbs fight, because although Chris Hobbs was Southern Area champion, he's still nowhere near the level of opponent that Yarde needs to be fighting to bring him along. So yeah, we'll see who Yarde is going to fight next. They did mention a name. Let me see if it's listed on his box rec. It isn't. It's not yet listed on Yarde's box rec, but Frank Warren mentioned the name, and he said that Yarde's next fight would be, I think, on the Billy Joe Saunders undercard, and it would be against some guy out there who's like 19-3 or something like that for the WBO European light heavyweight title. So Frank Warren says it's a big step up, and if Anthony Yarde's good enough, he'll come through. So hopefully we get to know more about Yarde in his next fight. Hopefully that opponent comes with some ambition, and puts up some resistance and has some type of skills. Maybe hopefully he can bang a little bit. Maybe we'll see if Yarde can actually take a shot. So plenty of questions to be answered, but I think from an athletic point of view, from a technique point of view, Yarde looks the business so far. But again, that technique has to be tested against much better opposition. So yeah, a little bit of a waffling video here, people, but hopefully you stayed with me to the end. So let me know what you thought of Anthony Yarde's performance. What do you think of him as a prospect? Do you think he's the real deal? Do you think he's a pretender? Do you think he should drop this Mayweather technique? I personally don't think so. I think, you know, some people were saying that everybody who tries to emulate the Mayweather technique falls flat on their face. But I personally think the Mayweather style, or at least elements of the Mayweather style, the shoulder roll, which is not really a Mayweather thing anyway. People have been doing that since the Archie Moore days. You know, James Toney was a guy who used to use the shoulder roll in the 90s and whatnot. But still, people act as though that style with the shoulder roll and all that business, only Floyd can pull it off. It's not true. I would say that about the Customado style, though. Many people have tried to emulate the Mike Tyson Customado style, because Tyson's style was different than Jose Torres and Floyd Patterson and whatnot. It was very similar, but Tyson added little caveats to that style as well. So let's just call it the Tyson D'Amato style. Anybody who's tried to emulate the Tyson D'Amato style has fallen flat on their face. I've never seen anybody be successful with it. I think it is a style which is extremely difficult to master. Whereas the shoulder roll style, let's just call it that, the Philly shell style, is an easier style to master. And I'm not saying that everybody who does it is going to end up being an all-time great, no. But I do feel like a lot of people benefit from using shoulder rolls and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be for everybody, but certain fighters do make themselves better by emulating certain aspects of Floyd Mayweather's game. I don't think it's as difficult to master as I say, the Tyson D'Amato style. So anyway, let me know what you think of Andy Yarde's performance, him as a fighter, and what you should do going forward. It's happening, I'm out.